Hi, my name is Kelsey Passetti, and I'm the board chair and social media ambassador for AFSP Wisconsin. I am a multiple suicide attempt survivor, and I began struggling with suicidal ideation in my early adolescence. During my freshman year of college, I nearly lost my life, and that's not something that I share lightly, but it's part of why this work matters so much to me. And at the time, I was leading a mental health club on campus, and it did give me community and purpose and connection during some really hard years. And still, I felt like something was missing. I needed support that was more specific to suicide, something that named it, held it, and made space for it. In 2020, I reached out to the incredible Gina Orlando with one big hope: to bring an Out of the Darkness campus walk to UW Whitewater. And even though COVID changed everything, we showed up anyway. There was no physical walk that year, but we raised funds, shared stories, and started building something that was real. And in 2021, we had a very small walk. And in 2022, we finally held an official walk. When I looked out into the crowd while sharing my story, I felt far less alone than I ever had before. And together we raised $12,000 or $13,000 for suicide prevention, research, and programming. But more than that, we created connection. The walks remain my favorite AFSP program because they remind people that they are seen, supported, and not alone, and that they can show up just as they are. After I graduated, I joined the AFSP Wisconsin board, and I haven't looked back since. The AFSP community has become a huge protective factor in my mental health journey, and it's where I learned that vulnerability is power and that opening up didn't weaken me, but it changed me for the better. Some of my other favorite ways to volunteer would include planning Madison's International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day event and advocating at both the state and federal level. We don't always get to see the outcomes of our volunteer work, but sometimes mission moments show up in unexpected ways. I'm really lucky to connect my AFSP volunteer work with my work as a school counselor. This year, I brought 2 high school students to the Advocacy Action Day at the Wisconsin State Capitol. I told them that they could share if they wanted, or that they could simply observe and learn. And they courageously shared their stories in those meetings. And when Gina came to our school to present AFSP's It's Real program, a student came directly to my office afterward asking for help. And that's a moment that stays with me. What we do matters as volunteers, and I wish I had had this information when I was younger, but I'm grateful that I can help provide it now. Through AFSP, I've learned that my story is important and that I don't have to struggle alone, and that as long as there is love, friendship, and community in the universe, there is hope. I found my passion with AFSP, and I found my reason to stay.
Hi everyone, my name is Belle and I'm on the board with AFSP, and I volunteer with AFSP in honor of my sister Olivia, who died by suicide in 2024. She was an artist. I have some of her art behind me that I get to look at every day. That's her up there. Isn't she talented? Like so many other families, you can't even imagine facing a loss like this, and then you do suddenly. And I remember being in the midst of my grief and trying to find an outlet, a channel that was productive, and that's how I came across AFSP. It brought me community, it brought me purpose, it brought me hope, it brought me joy. I've loved every second of what I get to do with AFSP, and so that's why I continue doing what I do, is to connect with other families, other sisters, other volunteers who have lost loved ones, to share in some of that grief, but also to channel that productively into something beautiful.
Hello, my name is Kyle. Suicide prevention is important to me because it is deeply personal. I started volunteering with AFSP Wisconsin in 2019 because of my own struggles with mental health as a suicide attempt survivor and wanting to help others feel less alone. In 2020, I joined the board, and in 2022, I lost my father to suicide. That loss strengthened my commitment to this work. Suicide prevention matters because every conversation, Every resource and every act of support can save a life. We all have the power to create hope for someone who may need it most. Together, we can create a world without suicide.
Hi, my name is Sarah Kolbeck. I am the board president for the Wisconsin chapter of AFSP. I've been a volunteer with the chapter for about 5 years now. Been on the board for about 3. And I volunteer with AFSP because it gives me the opportunity to advocate for policies that will work to prevent suicide. I am here in Washington, D.C. today, and just wrapped up our Hill Day meetings with 4 members of the Wisconsin delegation, talking about 3 different policies that are currently being considered either in the House or the Senate or both for suicide safer policies, including a policy to provide a grant mechanism for cities and municipalities to install bridge barriers. And so being able to advocate for policies like this is important to me, and that's why I volunteer.
Hi, I'm Megan. I am the Wisconsin Construction Hike for Hope Chair this year. Actually, my first year volunteering with AFSP. I went to the hike last year and got super excited about being more involved this year as a volunteer instead of just a participant. I am excited to continue raising funds and awareness for the suicide prevention and mental health wellness practices in construction. Definitely something that we talk a lot about, but not something that we're completely removing the stigma from. So hoping that just more awareness, more participation, and more engagement from everyone in the industry helps us be able to prevent it going forward.
I volunteer with AFSP and I walk because I believe in a world without suicide. I believe that everybody should feel like they matter, nobody should feel alone, and everybody should feel like they can reach out for support because they deserve it, and they should be able to reach out for support when they need it, and really destigmatizing mental health and suicide so that people do reach out for the support that they need.
Hello everyone, my name is Bree and I am a proud volunteer with AFSP. In 2018, I walked my very first Out of the Darkness walk to honor my brother Marquise, who died by suicide at the age of 15. Walking a day was my way of saying his life mattered, his story matters. What I didn't expect was how much the walk would change me. In 2022, I decided to take a step forward and become a volunteer, and I never looked back. Every single year, I look forward to showing up because this community has given me something I didn't know that I needed. It reminded me that I am not alone. Being surrounded by so many people who truly understand the pain of losing a loved one to suicide and watching them still choose hope is one of the most powerful things I have ever witnessed.
My name is Layla Orlando. I'm 24 years old, and I've been volunteering with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Wisconsin chapter for about 12 years now. In these 12 years, I've had the opportunity to attend numerous different types of events, from campus walks to Advocacy Day in the Capitol. When asked how did I benefit from volunteering for AFSP, it's really hard to choose just one thing because my mental health toolbox has been so filled from resources and the people I've met along the way while volunteering here. I will say that one thing I carry with me daily is that talk saves lives. AFSP has taught me that having meaningful conversations with not only other people but also yourself can really deplete some of that stigma around mental health and suicide. While 12-year-old Layla may have started volunteering because her aunt was a volunteer and because she needed volunteer hours, 24-year-old Layla will never stop talking because of it.
Hi, I'm Cassie. I started volunteering with AFSP at the Milwaukee Out of the Darkness walk, and one of the first walks that I volunteered at, I was helping with registration and checking in a woman. I asked her name, and the first thing that she said to me was, "I lost my brother last year." And it was in that moment, with all the hustle and bustle, everything around me, everything just stopped. And it reminded me that this isn't just a walk. People come here because they've been impacted one way or another by suicide. And for some, this might be their first time talking about their experience. These events raise awareness, but they also build community, and they're creating a space where people can feel seen, supported. They don't feel alone. They feel comfortable. And that's why I keep showing up to volunteer. And every time I'm at the Out of the Darkness walk and I look out at the crowd, I'm reminded of how powerful this community really is.
Hi, I'm Maria, and I have been volunteer for FSP for the last 6 years and almost a year as a board member. I'm grateful for FSP and all the hard work they do. I love how the message is coming across to the Latino communities and is bringing hope to all those that need it. It's important to know there is hope, and it's important to know that FSP is always there to support the message about suicide prevention. Gracias por el apoyo. Gracias por brindar el mensaje a la comunidad latina de que sí hay esperanza en la prevención de suicidio. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Celia Schilling, and I'm a volunteer with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I volunteer in honor of my mom and dad, who took their lives when they were 48 years old. Losing them changed the way that I see the world, but volunteering has become a way for me to carry their memory forward. I volunteer in many ways with AFSP, but my main focus is postvention for loss survivors. I'm a Healing Conversations volunteer, and we are there for anyone that has lost someone to suicide and needs to talk about it. I feel honored to be part of something that provides comfort and support, and it reminds people that they're not alone. I volunteer because I want to end suicide, and I want to do what I can to be there for others that are trying to manage their grief after a suicide loss. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gina Orlando. I came to AFSP many years ago as a volunteer at a time in my life when I was seeking hope and healing after experiencing the loss of two very close friends to suicide. And now, all these years later, I am so privileged to be able to do this work every single day. A lot of times in suicide prevention, we hear stories of loss, and this work can be really heavy. But the mission moments, the moments where you witness healing and connection in real time, that's what keeps me going. I think about the father I met at his first Out of the Darkness walk, telling me that when he put his honor beads on, it was the first time that he accepted that he had lost his daughter to suicide, and he felt like he could start the journey towards healing. Or I think about a woman who attended our support group facilitator training on one of our scholarships, and she reached out several weeks later to tell me that the night before, she was able to recognize that one of her support group attendees was in crisis because of what she learned in our training, and she was able to connect that person to crisis resources and professional help, and that they're now doing well. I also think about a time when I was tabling at an event and I was talking to a person who stopped by, and I recommended that he take one of our lifesaver guides. He told me that he didn't think he needed it. He didn't really know anybody that had mental health issues. And I said, it can't hurt to take it. And a few weeks later, he reached out and he said, I'm going to need a few more of those cards you gave me because I already had to give that one to somebody who needed it. We truly may never know how many lives have been saved because of the work that we do. But I know with all certainty that lives are being saved every single day, even if we don't know all of the stories. I'm grateful to be able to connect people to the help that they need, to the hope that they need, and to resources when they need it most. This organization saves lives. And I know that because it saved my life.